Hey everyone, what's up? My name's Alex, aka Ronder, coach of the Seattle Staraptors for the Lake Stevens Battle Association. Today I'm here to bring you a recap video from the end of Season 3 last year. So, anybody who saw my channel would have seen that last year I started producing videos for the LSBA. Last year was our third season doing the Summer League, or Summer Draft League, and one of our new coaches from last year, Chaz, the coach of the Aldehyde Aegislashes, was our first member to own a capture card for the 3DS. And so he offered battle video capturing services for, well, not services, but he offered to record me and a couple other guys' videos in addition to his own so that we could have a small, group of people making LSBA videos. However, around the middle of the season, my last battle that I got recorded and put up on YouTube was week 4 of Season 3. I don't know if Chaz got busy or just wasn't able to continue recording videos for everyone, but basically from week 4 on, nobody was able to have their videos recorded by the capture card. And so 2 of the other people who were doing videos, Jack and Matt, were both able to continue producing videos. Each of them did not all of their fights, but some of them on Showdown, and when you fight on Showdown, it's easy to get a free screen recorder to record your replays that way. And even I did some of my battles on Showdown as well, but my week 5 match was on cart, and I was determined at first to have all of my battles posted to my YouTube channel in chronological order. So instead of taking Jack, for example's approach, who would just continue to post the new Showdown battles as he did them and skip some of the ones that he wasn't able to do, I was waiting for that week 5 match to come into my hands, but it never did, and by the time I realized that the battle probably wasn't going to be recorded for me, it was like 4 weeks after the fact, and so I decided just to beg the video recording thing for the rest of the season. And since I'm the administrator of the Lake Stevens Battle Association WordPress website, I decided to focus my efforts just towards continuing to build teams and fight, as well as maintaining the website last year. But, so the purpose of today's video is to just quickly run through the rest of my season from last year, to get everybody caught up, because I am planning on continuing to record videos for the start of Season 4 of the LSBA, which is going to be coming up next week in real time. So, to start it off, so the last week that I got to post was week 4 against my second division rival of the season, Josh, which was a win. Following that, week 5 was against one of my out-of-division opponents, Dylan, coach of the Detroit Don Fans. So, my fight against Dylan was pretty entertaining because this was mid-July, and it was around the time where a lot of the Sun and Moon promotional materials had started to come out, and so we got to see some of those clips of your early game fights against Hao and Hala on the square wooden festival platform in the starting village in Sun and Moon. And so at that time I thought that stage battling, or just battling as part of a ritual or a festival or whatever, was going to be a big part of Sun and Moon. And in Lake Stevens, where the Lake Stevens Battle Association is founded and based, we have a similar looking square wood platform in the park that's downtown. And so I knew that Dylan at least would be down to meet up in real life and have a stage battle on that square stage, and so that's what we did. So one night when everybody was out Pokemon Going downtown late at night, we decided to take a break from that and walk over to the square stage, and it was pretty late at night. It must have been 10 or 11 or maybe even midnight, so there weren't a lot of other people around, but our friends and us gathered around the stage, half on each side, half watching Dylan and half watching me, and we had a cool stage fight, so that was pretty fun. But anyways, the long story short, I ended up beating Dylan 2-0, and my MVP of the match was Vivian. I don't remember exactly what his team was last year. Looking at the team list I have here, his Mega was Mega Latios, he had Celebi, which are both really bug-weak Pokemon, Donphan, he had several Psychic types. He had Regirock and Quagsire and Diancie and Gastrodon and Donphan, which were all weak to Giga Drain. And like, I saw an opportunity to get just a bunch of kills with Vivillon this match. So Vivillon ended up walking out of the match with 3 kills, it looks like, which is half of the total kills that Vivillon got all season last year. Week 6 was a rematch against my division rival Matt, coach of the Everett Tropius. This was our second match of the season. Our first match was week 3, and I ended up beating him again. This time was a 3-0 victory, and Charizard X was my MVP of that fight. Week 7, I finally got to fight my division rival Sule, coach of the Mysterious Missing Nose. We had our first fight of the season pretty late on because, if you recall, you fight all of your division rivals for the LSBA twice a season, and basically the top 2 from each division get to go on to the playoffs. And I managed to take a 2-0 victory against him, where I had a really even kill distribution. I didn't really have an MVP of the fight. That was a fight where I went in with a really cool, like, I don't want to say gimmicky, but my strategy basically revolved around the fact that he had a very rock-type weak team. His roster was Ursaring, Charizard, Gyarados, Wobbuffet, Scolipede, Golurk, Crobat, Durant, Drifblim, Ariados, and Megalopunny. So even though he had some rock resists on his team, he also, like, half his team was weak to rock. So my strategy was to run in with a sand team where I set up sand with my Aerodactyl. I had Scarf Roserade with Weather Ball, which turns into a base 100 rock type move in the sand. And I had Sand Rush Excadrill that week instead of Mold Breaker, and so my strategy was just kinda go in and rock him to death. And unfortunately, I didn't get to really employ the cool Roserade strat. It got to a point during the fight where I had an opportunity to like switch in Roserade to show off the cool move, but I was like, you know what, I'll save it until next time, because I was able to win anyways. Week 8 was versus Lindy, coach of the Turned Up Tyrantrums. She was one of our new teams last season, and fighting her was particularly cool because we ended up having 15 members register for the LSBA last year, but you really need the even 16 teams to make the schedule work out nicely and to have an even 4 teams in each division. And so we were like scrambling looking for a 16th person to fill in our last team slot, and Rodney's girlfriend Lindy, who casually played Pokemon, Rodney, coach of the Florida for Alligators, that is, she just out of nowhere stepped up and offered to play in our summer league with us for the season, even though she had never done any competitive battling. So that was really nice of her, and I hope she had some fun playing. I kind of took over as her coach, so like I kind of walked her through how to basically competitive battle and set her up with teams that were advantageous, and she ended up winning 2 out of her 10 matches, but she technically won 3 because she had 1 DNF against somebody. But this week 8 match against me, I couldn't really build her team for her because I was fighting her. So we passed the baton off to Taco, who took her team and built it to fight me, basically. And despite her being a new competitive player, she ended up being able to muster an 0-1 loss against me. I beat her, but it was just a 1-0, which was pretty incredible. Like, way to go, Lindy. You may not have won all of your matches, but some of the ones that she won, like she got a 5-0 against Dylan, she beat David 2-0, I think, where he had been near undefeated all season. She almost beat me. Like, Lindy kicked a lot of ass, and I'm really proud of how well she did. So anyways, moving past that though, I got my 6th, I think, win in a row that week against Lindy. Week 9, I fought one of my division rivals, Josh again, of the Galapagos Garchomps, and that was another really close match. He kinda let me set up Charizard X against him the first time way too easily, and I was able to just sweep him with Char X the first match, but this time, he put up way closer of a fight. Char X was still my MVP, netting 3 kills against him, but, I mean, the 1-0 score speaks for itself, really. And then finally, the 10th week of the season, I fought my last match against one of my division rivals, Sule, who was the person I had the Janky Sand team for. And since my team worked so efficiently before, and I didn't get to employ any of my cool strategies, I decided just to bring the same exact team against Sule, which ended up being a super mistake, because even though Sule hadn't done so hot the entire season, he really brought his A game to me in week 10, and I ended up suffering a super bad loss, 0-5 loss to Sule that week. So honestly, I didn't even feel mad. That's the strategy that he used against me was so cool. Like, he entrainmented my Charizard X, I think, which he'd even told me about the strategy before the season started, even though we were division rivals, and I fell for it anyways. But he threw Durant in to entrainment my Charizard X, and then he shadow tagged me with Wobbuffet so I couldn't switch out. And basically, he was able to just set up a Golurk sweep. He got some speed and maybe a Swords Dance passed into Golurk, and Golurk just killed 4 of my Pokemon straight up. The other one is he also got a Gyarados sweep going against me. The one Pokemon I was able to kill was the Gyarados, but that was a loss where, yeah, I didn't even feel mad. Like, it's just fun fighting battles where you go in, like, underprepared and get super punished for it. Like, it's a good way to stay real. Like, I didn't really prepare for a lot of Sule's other Pokemon that week because he hadn't been using very much variety, and I just went in with the exact same strategy that I used against him the first time, and like, it was a good learning experience. I won't make that mistake again fighting anybody. But all in all, I ended the season with a 7-3 record, which was good enough to move on in the first to the playoffs. Like every other season before, I've never not qualified for the playoffs so far, but I was the top seed in my division this year. Both me and Matt of the Everett Tropius moved on. So as far as my playoffs run went, I didn't really feel good about any of the matchups that I had, but I decided to prep my hardest and fight my hardest and see where it got me. So my first match was against David, coach of the Denver Disco Daves, and that match was particularly memorable for me because it was the first 0-0 match in the history of the LSBA. I ended up winning the match, but it was a kill where Staraptor was by far my MVP that match, but Staraptor killed Mega Venusaur on the last turn and killed itself with Brave Bird Recoil as well as the Venusaur. But as in all Pokemon matches, if you have a 0-0 due to offensive recoil like that, the Pokemon who died doing the damage to the other Pokemon technically wins the match. So Staraptor ended up netting me 4 kills that match though. It was crazy. And the other thing that was challenging about that is I'd already had to fight Josh twice in the season, who had Prankster Sableye, but he ended up trading his Sableye to David for the playoffs, which meant that David went into the playoffs with 2 Prankster Pokemon. He had his signature from last year, Meowstic, as well as Sableye. So that was a crazy prankster-filled match with lots of stall breaking and taunting, and Meloetta pulled a lot of work, and it was just fantastic overall. It was a really close match, and like, it really could have gone either way. In my half of the conference, the other person who moved on from the first round of the playoffs was Jack, coach of the Wenatchee Wobbuffets. He ended up defeating my division rival Matt and proceeding on to fight me. So again, this was a match where going into it, I even found a quote on our Facebook page where I'm like, I'm so badly matched up against your team for this fight that I'm actually super excited for it. And that wasn't even an exaggeration. This kid's team was crazy. Let's see, some of the highlights from Jack's team last year. Just his whole roster was Tentacruel, Rotom H, Mamoswine, Mandibuzz, Chestnut, Manaphy, Dragalge, Reuniclus, Mismagius, Doublade, and Mega Absol, and that's not right because he traded Mismagius for Tornadus Eye and Mandibuzz for Victini, so this kid had a crazy scary team. It wasn't the scariest looking team in the league, but I really didn't have a very well equipped team to deal with it. But what ended up happening is it was another very close match where I ended up getting just a 1-0 win versus Jack, with Jirachi being my MVP of the match, scoring 3 out of my 6 kills. Yeah, no, that was an extremely hard fought match, and Jack went on record after the fact saying that he was super sad because it might have been a different outcome if he had brought Special Victini. The main reason I was able to beat him at all is because he had V-Create Victini, which lowers Victini's stats after each time he uses it, and he was Choice Scarfed on that. So I was able to swoop in at the end and take advantage of his lowered stats from V-Create to essentially beat the Victini. I'm pretty sure he would have won if he had brought his like blue flare Victini, but obviously I can't say one way or the other, and it would have been close either way. But this was crazy because I've always made it to the playoffs all 3 seasons of the LSBA, but I usually lost out in the first round. But this year I finally made it to the finals, and I had no other better opponent than Nick, coach of the Rock'em Sock'em Rotoms, to play in the final match of Season 3. So this kid had the most stacked team out of the entire league. We had our Season 2 champ Sean, who had a pretty good OU looking team, and he used the same team through the entire season, but his other 5 Mons weren't as good. But Nick's team was as follows: Latios, Azumarill, Gengar, Keldeo, Arcanine, Zapdos, Hippowdon, Shaman, Crocodile, and Mega Charizard Y. So, I don't know, his team was just super good. Nick's he plays heavy offense, but he also plays heavy bulky offense, so going in with a glass cannon team like mine, who relies on setup damage to break through fat things like Nick had, even just Zapdos and Hippowdon on his team were bad news for me. Shaman's a pretty bulky poke. Azumarill doesn't have negligible bulk. Latios isn't squishy either. It was an insane match, but ultimately I wasn't able to pull off the championship, and I ended up losing 0-2 to Nick. But it was well fought, and honestly, I got 2nd place for the season. That's so amazing. I'm super happy with how my team performed. Just to run back over what my final team for the season was, I had Excadrill as my MVP from Season 2, Jirachi, Breloom, Aerodactyl, Roserade, Cloyster, Staraptor, Uxie, Meloetta, Vivian, and Mega Charizard X. And honestly, considering how I had, I had 4 OU Pokemon on my team, and then a bunch of UU and some R and NU, I was super happy with both how well I was able to pilot this team that year, and just being able to pick things that I liked a lot, like Cloyster, Roserade, and Vivian, and use them to good effect without them necessarily being the best, just exemplifies what I love about the Draft League format. It's truly a format where, ingenuity can get you far, and proper team prep, and just trying your hardest, don't give up, and you can go places in the LSBA, basically, as corny as that sounds. That said, you can't scoff on having good Pokemon like Mega Charizard X or Breloom as well. They were highly valuable assets, but I definitely like how far I was able to get with the Poke team that I had. And now, really quick, I'd just like to run over my final player stats from the season, and team stats in general. So, postseason matches don't count towards any of this because these stats are only for battles that everybody had an equal number of battles, and obviously the people who move on to the playoffs have more battles than the people who don't. But so my ending season record was 7-3 at only a +2 differential. My hyper-offensive playstyle doesn't lend itself to having large numbers of Pokemon left over. Even when I get a sweep going, which I won 7 out of 10 of my battles, rather, sacrifice and making smart sacrifices and switches is a big part of my strategy. So, seeing that 7-3 but only +2 differential, really puts things in perspective. A lot of the other playoff contenders had, +11 and +16 differentials going into the playoffs, so my overall differential is a lot lower than theirs. Then my player stats, I'll put them up on the screen so you can see the nitty-gritties for yourself. Due to its super late season acquisition, Meloetta was my only Pokemon with a 100% win rate during the main season. Because I only ended up bringing it to one main season fight and it ended up winning that fight, if it showed up to more fights, it probably wouldn't have maintained a 100% record, but it does speak to like something, and it was a vital part of, I think, every single playoff match that I had. It was super important in my match against David. I brought it to my finals match against Nick to try and soak up some of his special hits. And I may or may not have brought it to Jack, but either way, Meloetta was a huge player in my season. My top 3 kills for the season. So number 1 is obviously Mega Charizard X. That's just such a huge damage dealer. It ended the season with 14 kills, 5 deaths, so plus 9 differential. It showed up to 6 matches and won 5 of them for an 83% win rate. So I didn't even bring Mega Charizard X that much, just barely to over half of my matches, but the matches that it did show up to, like, I just made sure not to bring it to that many disadvantageous matches, really. That's, like, there are certain matchups where Mega Charizard are just not as good. If you know that the opponent has a lot of, like, Stealth Rock setters and things to stop you from removing the Stealth Rock, it's sketchy. So, like, I was able to utilize Mega Charizard well when I had to, though. Number 2 for kills of the season goes to Breloom, who got 9 kills and 4 deaths for a plus 5 differential. So definitely not as good as Charizard. However, it showed up to 9 battles and won 7 of them for a total of a 78% win rate. But that means that it showed up to a lot more fights than Charizard, and it also won 2 more fights than Charizard. So, like, honestly, going into Season 4, I was heavily considering Breloom to be my MVP of the season. And then, humorously enough, tied for my number 3 in kills were Aerodactyl with 6 kills, 8 deaths, minus 2 differential. He showed up to 9 out of 10 matches and won 6 out of 10 of them for a 66% win rate. And Vivian, who had 6 kills and 2 deaths, plus 4 differential, showed up to 4 matches, won 3 of them for a 75% win rate. So, this is funny because I have other Pokemon on my team, like Excadrill, who only got 3 kills, Jirachi ended up being a Healing Wish Mule for most of the season and got 0 kills. Cloyster I didn't get to use very much, only got 1 kill, Roserade got 1 kill. So of all these Pokemon that I have, my Suicide Lead Setup Aerodactyl was one of my main killers, and my NU round 11 pick, Vivian, was one of my main kill count Pokemon. So I just think that's pretty funny. Vivian, I approached the season with the sole purpose of trying to beat out Jacob, who was the coach of the Port Angeles Teddy Ursa's Season 2. I mostly just wanted to beat out his Butterfree's kill count, because his Butterfree got a lot more kills than you would have expected a Butterfree to be able to get. And I'm always giving him shit about how Vivian is basically just Butterfree, which isn't necessarily the case, and I feel stupid because I don't have Butterfree's kills pulled up. Let's see if I can do that really quick. But basically I think Butterfree got either 4 or 5 kills, I believe. And Vivian was able to get 6 kills and only died twice. That's, again, I only brought it 4 times because I only saw 4 opportunities for me to bring it, be able to set up with it, and do well with it. But in those matches that I brought it to, it definitely performed as I expected and wanted it to each time. And so it was just entertaining being able to take an NU Pokemon like that, keep it through the entire season, not trade it away, and then have it as part of my second place for the year team, and just be my top 3 kills. Okay, so actually, Butterfree ended up matching Vivian in kills. It had 6, but it had 5 deaths, so it only had a +1 differential instead of a +4 differential. So really not that big of a difference. That's Jacob pretty much showed me that I was only barely able to one-up Butterfree, and only through not dying as much, because he used Butterfree as a suicide lead a lot of the time that he brought it. But yeah, so I think that's all for this video. It's already started to drag on. We're at the 25-minute mark. So, just so you know, coming out shortly after this video, either same day or maybe a couple days later, I'm going to have for you my Season 4 draft analysis video. So that'll be the same format as last year's. I'm basically just going to walk through my draft picks and why I picked them. And then starting next week, the Season 4 is starting, so in that draft analysis video, I'm also going to go over a quick season analysis, basically just take a look at my division rivals for the year, how I feel about them, maybe take a quick peek at the 4 out-of-division matches that I have, and just kind of give my predictions for the season. I will say that I'm super excited for it, though. Thanks for listening to this recap video. I hope it was informational to you, and again, I apologize for not having fun battle videos to watch for all of this information. If I find myself with an abundance of time over the summer, I may go back and try to re-record some of the videos that I missed in the same fashion that I'm going to be recording my Season 4 battle videos, which is just going to be onto my phone. But we'll see. I'm definitely going to prioritize doing this season's videos over catching up on last season's. But yeah, that's all. This video's gone on long enough. I'll see you next time. Peace.